Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the ESO Cast, your Elder Scrolls Online podcast. It is Thursday, March the 28th. My name is Dennis Duhamel. I'm joined by Jesse Cox. This is going to be a great cast, Jesse. I'm excited.
It is. This is a big one.
Yeah, we got a lot to talk about. Really exciting time. Now, both Jesse and myself did attend PAX East, and we both got a chance to spend quite a bit of time with the game. So we're going to be talking about that for the bulk of this cast. But before we jump into that, I just wanted to mention some news, and some very exciting news, although not for me personally, but the exciting news is that the beta has arrived. Beta invites have begun going out. I think a couple of days ago, I believe it was on the 26th, so just about 2 days ago, they put up a post saying, hey guys, we've sent out beta invites. Be sure to check your inboxes, check your spam, and a few lucky people are going to be playing the beta very soon. Jesse, I have to ask you, I haven't spoken to you yet, but did you get an invite?
No.
Me neither.
They don't love me.
I mean, what else do we have to do? I mean, we are devoting hours of our life, probably hundreds of hours before all is said and done, to these podcasts and making all these. You made this video. They got like 500,000 views or something on the video you did last fall.
A million views.
A million views. Like, what do we need to do, Jesse? I don't get it.
Be friends with someone who works there, probably.
Yeah, I guess that could be I'm obviously just joking around here. They're doing these invites not based on who's making videos on the game, as much as we like to think that's the case. It's based on their testing parameters and the things that they're trying to accomplish with their testing. It's been said in the past that they'll be doing these specific beta events. They'll be focusing on certain aspects of the game, and based on your qualifications of the information you submitted signing up for the test, that's going to determine whether or not you get in. And then beyond that, they're just starting off very small.
Right.
You know, I actually got a chance to speak with Matt Fyroar at PAX East, and he was telling me these first couple of beta events, it's going to be like a couple hundred people. Like that's a very small pool. And the primary focus for the first few tests are just going to be, can you log in? Does the game crash immediately, or are you able to log in and actually see something? So yeah, I mean, there might be some lucky people viewing the cast right now who happen to get in, but otherwise, if you didn't get in, fret not, because they'll be continuing to do this. There'll be beta events leading up to launch on a regular basis, and they'll be sending out invitations to all who qualify. But I know there's a lot of people who were disappointed that they didn't get invited, myself included. I was like, oh, of course I'm going to get an email. Nope. Check my spam.
I don't mind missing out on the early beta. Early beta is always
That's
bad.
True. Early beta is pretty awful.
I'm not too worried about that.
Yeah, I mean, again, like I just said, it's sort of just gonna be, does the game break, or can you log in or not? So that's really all these first few beta tests are likely going to be. So yeah, you're right. It's not that big of a deal, but just so everyone knows, it started, so this is going to keep on happening. And I'm just assuming, since they did put up a post announcing that they sent out a wave of invitations, that they'll probably continue this process. So you'll be well aware when this is happening. I expect them to continue to post whenever they send subsequent waves out, and we'll know to check our inboxes. And if not, we'll just wait for the next time.
Works for me.
Yep. Okay, so beyond that, there was also another AMA on the Elder Scrolls Online website in which they spoke about combat again. So there's a few things in this that I wanted to just briefly touch on, because I thought there was a few interesting points of interest. Some of this is going to be rehashed information, but I thought there were some pretty interesting points within this as well. So we're going to go through this question by question just really quickly. The first question that was brought up is, hey, will I be able to tell what type of armor people are wearing just by glancing at it, be it heavy, medium, or light? And the response was yes. All the different armor types will have a distinctive look, and then obviously different sets will have distinctive looks as well. And it's just one of those things that it'll come with time whether or not you'll be able to determine what type of armor someone's wearing. The question was in reference to him and his guild trying to sneak behind enemy lines and take out light armored targets. He just wanted to know, am I going to be able to tell what armor someone's wearing? And the answer was yes. Second question was about.
It's pretty obvious.
Yeah, I mean, and
We both played it, and it was pretty obvious.
right. You can tell if something's cloth or a heavy mail like a plate mail or chain mail, or a leather sort of a medium one like that. I think that'll be pretty, and especially during the end game when we're dealing with things like sets, people are going to become very familiarized with who's wearing what and what armor type that is. So, and then obviously if you see people casting certain spells, you can sort of, although I guess that's not necessarily the case because you can have heavy armor casters in this game as well. So just by sure design. Next question was about projectiles, asking if they would need to carry ammunition with them essentially, and the answer to that question is no, which I think that's fine by me. I don't think in an MMO it's going to make a lot of, especially in like a player versus player scenario. If you've got if you're playing an archer and you've got a limited resource, you're going to be at a huge disadvantage to people who don't have to deal with that, Right, in fact, they made that switch in WoW eventually, didn't they? Didn't they get rid of munitions altogether?
Yeah, I think they just did that.
I remember in the good old days where you had to carry a quiver and there were all these different types of arrows or bullets or whatever, but I thought they got rid of that. I thought they made it.
They definitely did. I don't remember if it was this expansion or the previous one, but
right.
It is gone. Yeah, you're right.
And I think that just makes sense. I think, again, if you're dealing, especially in a game that has PvP and it's such a heavy focus that we're going to see in the Elder Scrolls Online, having a limited resource compared to melee characters who don't have to deal with that, it just, I don't know. And it's just sort of tedious too. I mean, I guess it'll add to the immersion for some people, like, oh, I've got these special arrows from that dungeon, but it's not going to be in the game as of now. The next question, this was a big question on people's minds, whether or not you could move while attacking, or if it was one of those games where you're sort of locked into place when you do your attacks.
Oh, no.
Yeah, you
can move.
You can bounce all over the place. Yeah,
I've got some stories. I can't wait to talk about.
I know. I'm really excited. I did just want to blow through these things real quick, but yeah, I'm really excited to talk about our actual play experience. But yes, the answer is you can move while attacking, and there are light and heavy attacks. So the use case for this will be if you're coming up to an enemy and you want to charge up a heavy attack to hit them with it, as you're walking into them, sort of do a timed attack. That is a possibility. That's something you can do. Blocking, you can also move while blocking. I played a character with a shield and a sword, and I would be able to essentially put up my guard, put up my shield, and then back up to try to, basically control these engagements. So that you can move while you're attacking. That is definitely something that you're able to do. Next question was referring to the different, let's see what this was, different skills. So weapon skills, how are weapon skills going to work in this game? And this was actually something that I wasn't entirely sure of before this AMA. So he's asking, are weapon skills going to affect class abilities? The answer to the question is no. Weapon skills do not affect class abilities. They are independent of them. Now, my initial thought when it came to weapon skills was that it was going to work like Guild Wars 2. In Guild Wars 2, you basically pick up a weapon with whatever class you're using, and there's a set amount of skills for that weapon. And then you can switch to a different weapon, and there'll be a set amount of skills for that weapon. Well, in this game, you'll have weapon skills that you can equip to your hotbar, but they aren't going to affect your individual class skills. It's a completely separate thing. And the other cool thing that they said in here too is that for each weapon you have, so we're going to have the ability to quickly swap weapons. It's a different taskbar, so you can have two different skill setups depending on what weapons you're using. But yeah, like if I'm using a two-handed sword or a one-handed sword, it's not going to affect the actual class abilities of my Dragon Knight. Just as an example. Were you throwing something in there, Jesse? I thought.
No, there's something else to throw in. I think you're right on.
Right.
When we actually talk about what we played, I guess I can add to it, but what you said is right.
Yeah. All right. Question about sneaking. How will sneaking work in the Elder Scrolls Online? It works exactly like Skyrim. There's going to be an eye above your character, and when someone sees you, that eye is fully visible, and when you're not seen, that eye is closed. I'm still interested to know, though, if there's going to be how stealth is going to work in PvP. I wonder if there's going to be any sort of invisibility. Maybe they'll just be specific skills that give you actual invisibility as opposed to the Skyrim crouching sneaking style.
Yeah, that's a great question because
obviously if you're just crouching, someone's going to look at you and be like, look at this idiot. Like, what does he think he's doing, He's not going to sneak up on me.
because that mechanic's in the game. I mean, it exists, but in PvP, I don't know how that would work.
Right. So with this whole sneaking thing, you're going to be able to sneak up on guys, and I think the cool thing about this, and this could actually, let's just say they don't have a legit invisibility where another player cannot see you if they're looking at where your character is. If they don't have something exactly like that, there is still going to be a benefit to the sneaking mechanic, because what will happen basically is that, I guess particular classes, or depending on what skills you end up having, if you hit someone from behind while you are sneaking, you get extra damage. So while someone could technically see you, if they're looking away from you and you walk up behind them, so here's a perfect example of a situation where if someone's playing in a first-person perspective and you walk up behind them and they don't see you, if you then go into sneak and you are undetected, you can stab them in the back and you'll get bonus damage as a result. So there'll still be a benefit to the act of sneaking, even if it's not a legit invisibility, which I think that's kind of cool. There's also going to be disguises in this game. And that's something that I got to see during the event, during PAX East trying the game. There's disguises where essentially there are different disguises that will provide you the ability to walk through certain areas essentially undetected, because they'll think you're part of their clan or you're part of their group or whatever. And I think my mind just goes crazy when I hear stuff like this, because I could just imagine some crazy where, okay, I'm in the Ebonheart Pact and I'm gonna put on a disguise that lets me walk through the Daggerfall Covenant city. Like, that would be cool if they actually take it to that extent. I think that'd be really awesome if you could sort of
I feel like it'll only be questing. I don't know if they're gonna go that far.
Oh, come on, why not?
I don't want to get my hopes up, because I feel like it'd be awesome. But I also feel like that's something that they would not do.
Well, we do know, though, that we're going to be able to go into enemy faction zones. I don't think we've talked about this since the announcement was made, because we ended up skipping last week's podcast because we were going to PAX. But I don't think we've had the conversation about, like, level 50, you can go into enemy faction zones. So, I mean, I don't know. That'd be cool. That'd be awesome if that was the case. You heard about that, right?
Yeah, I heard about it, but... Again, if that's how they allow you to, then that might be acceptable.
Yeah. All right, let's see. Just a couple more here that I wanted to take a look at. People were asking if PvP, if healers were going to be rewarded. They say that in a lot of MMOs, they feel like healers sort of get left out and the DPS gets all of the rewards. For an example, there's going to be this whole system where they determine who becomes Emperor of Cyrodiil based on your performance in PvP. And they said that even if you were just to go straight healer, you're still going to be factored into the equation, and there's still going to be an opportunity for you to become Emperor, just as an example, or to get high rewards even if you're just focused on healing. But they also made the note of saying that even if you are a healer, you can still be fully capable of doing damage, because there's so much customization in this game. There's so many decisions that you can make for your character. Question about whether or not there's going to be utility spells in this game as opposed to spells that just focus on damage, and the response was yes, we're going to have a ton of spells to focus on doing utility, such as spell reflecting, disarm, intervene, things of those nature. That's definitely going to be a big focus on the skills within this game. And I think that was sort of the major. They were asked if we could block with weapons besides shield. The answer is yes, you can block with any weapon. Blocking, the effectiveness is depending on, a shield is going to be more effective than if you were to try to block with a two-handed sword. And also blocking is affected by your stamina. So if you use up your stamina, then you're going to be in trouble. And then the last thing that I wanted to mention here is they were talking about crowd control and how heavy crowd control can sort of be a problem in games. And as we know, to break crowd control in the Elder Scrolls Online, you can use up stamina to essentially just break right through it. I don't know if it's going to be a dodge roll or whatever to get out of it, but if you have enough stamina, you can get out of crowd control effects easier. So I think it's going to be probably prove to be an interesting situation where a lot of engagements, people will at all costs try not to use any stamina whatsoever, so that once CC does come upon them, they can break out of it right away.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, cool.
Yeah, so I mean, it's because when you block, you're going to use up stamina. When you sprint, you're going to use up stamina, and then depending on what type of skills you have, some of your abilities, like some of your attacks, may use up stamina as well. So it'll be an interesting balance to try to make sure that you've got enough to try to break CCs. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the Ask Me Anything article. There's a few more questions in there. If you want to see it, just go ahead and head over to the ElderScrollsOnline.com. I also want to mention that ESO won Best of Show at PAX East, according to MMORPG.com. They went through their favorite parts of PAX East, and Best of Show did go to the Elder Scrolls Online, so that's exciting. There was a huge line for that game pretty much the entire time I was there. Every time I looked over, it seemed like that's a long line. People are still waiting in it.
I have some friends who work at the Enforcers, and they had said the night before Thursday, I guess Wednesday night, or no, Friday, whatever the first day was, Thursday night at 6 p.m. they started lining up to play that game. Like outside so they could get in so they could be the first people to play it.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's ridiculous. and I think the play sessions were only like, for the normal people, just like 15 minutes or something like that.
Yeah.
So I hope it was, they probably just got right back in line right after, I'm assuming. That is pretty nuts, though. Okay, so besides Best of Show, we're going to wrap up the news part with the developer question of the week. This is question of the week number 17. So we're going to take a look at this and then answer it. Jesse, you know the deal.
Yep.
Here we go.
Hi, my name is Blake Rubichet. I'm a content designer on the Elder Scrolls Online at ZeniMax Online Studios. So we recently gave people the opportunity to play the Elder Scrolls Online at PAX East. If you were one of the lucky people that got to play the game, can you describe for us in one word how you felt while you were playing it?
I don't know about these things, Jesse. They always ask such weird questions. Okay, so
one word. You get one word. Deal with it.
One word to describe. So this is going to be a perfect segue into a bulk of the show here. One word to describe how you felt while playing ESO at PAX East.
Yep.
That's your word?
Oh no, my word is overwhelmed. I felt my word is overwhelmed. I'll use that word.
Overwhelmed.
Yes.
That's great.
I have my reasons, but it's mostly because they changed so much stuff from when I played, and not all of it for the best. And I was like, oh no.
There's so much going on, so many new things. Yeah. I was excited. I think that's going to be my word. That was my first time playing the game. I'd seen footage. I'd talked with you about when you played last fall. And I came away from that thing as excited as ever. And I was just really impressed with a lot of things. There were definitely some things that really bugged me, and there were some problems that I saw, but it's so early in development. That was, I guess we'll call that early or pre-beta, the build that we played. That was probably, because usually the build that they show at these shows are a little older than the current internal build. So I'm assuming this build was like a pre-beta build before the beta build that's going to be coming up that people are currently all set to get ready to test. But yeah, so why don't we just go ahead and do this? Why don't we just go ahead and talk about this? I'd love to just chat with you about our experience with the game. So I was able to get in there and I got the press appointment for 2 hours, and I understand you had the same thing, right?
Yes.
So let's go through this. I'd love to just get your initial impressions. I don't know. Do you want to take this like from the beginning, like character creation, and just kind of move throughout the experience?
Sure. That sounds. I'm trying to think of an easy way to go through all of it.
Yeah,
that sounds like a good idea. So for my character, in this build, you played as the
it's the Daggerfall Covenant, I think.
Yeah, the human. Well, basically the two human factions and then the orcs.
Right.
And so those are your choices. I don't know if that's the best option. I feel like they could have gone with the Skyrim stuff because that's three distinctly different classes or races. But
could also be that they don't have that area ready or something.
Well, I mean, they had it ready when I played.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah. Huh.
But this was, so you went with the Covenant, and you were one of either two types of humans, or you were an orc. And so I went with a human mage. And I'm not sure what they were called.
So it's Breton, Redguard, and Orc. Those are the ones for the Daggerfall.
Yes. And so I went with a Briton. And I just played I played a mage. I don't know if it was called sorcerer or what it was, but the mage class is what I played because if you remember in previous podcasts, I had brought up or you had brought it up, and I was like, I need to figure this out. Was the fact that how does casting work in this game if guys can like move in front of stuff and
Right, yeah.
you have to focus. And so that's what I was like, you know what? That's what I'm going to try.
Yeah.
Because I played Melee before, so I know how Melee works. It feels very fluid. It feels kind of like Skyrim. And so I'm like, okay, I can handle it. It's not an issue. I'm going to play this ranged character. And I got to say, it was a lot of fun. When you attack, it's like we discussed. If a guy moves in front of the guy you're attacking, if you've already fired, it won't hit him. But
Right.
if the guy is still standing there and you try to fire again, it will hit him instead. So it will block the next attack. So if you've already unleashed your spell or whatever, the guy it'll hit is the guy that's going to hit. However, if you're about to attack again and a guy runs in front, he will then take the blow. So that was kind of interesting.
Now,
but
now before we move on, though, I need to ask, did you ask anyone or did you find the workaround to that? Because there is a workaround.
to being blocked? Or...
Yes, to being blocked from your intended target.
Oh yeah, like you can move and get out the way. I mean, it's not. You can also like lock on the person.
Right. That's a thing that was like the first quiz. This at the exact same time I was thinking about that, and I ended up grabbing one of the devs and I'm like, hey, so what's the deal here? Can I, if someone's blocking the guy I want to hit, can I hit him? Or will I need to try to like maneuver myself to the right or the left to try to circumvent him? And then he said, no, you just have to hit tab. And this is like how the whole soft locking thing comes into it now, is
Right.
that we're going to be able to, even if there's two people standing on top of each other, we can tab through and pick our intended target. But as we've talked about before, the cursor will override that for non-overlapping targets. So if there's a guy between me and the guy I want to hit, and I tab to the guy I want to hit, I will hit him. But if I move my mouse off to the right, away from, it's like this little box, which I don't know, how did you feel about that aesthetically? I thought that looked kind of ugly. I don't know if they can come up with something else, but
What now?
Like when you're tab targeting. There's like
Oh.
those little triangle, like the boxed area that's like triangles around them.
I didn't use it beyond the first attempt, seeing what it did.
I see.
For the rest of the time, I just ran around because my abilities were. We should probably get into it in a minute here, but my abilities, I had them set in a way that I could just blow guys around and then shoot them from far away. So it was cool. But going back to like the character creation, I just randomized, but most of it's the exact same styles and types. I mean, what do you think of character creation?
Yeah, it was good. I personally didn't spend a lot of time with it, but I just quickly looked at the options, and I know there were some people there. I read some of the articles from like other fan sites and other people who were at the event who actually dove into character creation. And if anyone hasn't looked into that, it's as good as Skyrim. Some people are saying it's even better. There's basically a lot of options you have in terms of making a character look the way you want, between like their build, whether you want them to be skinny or heavier, and you can sort of move their face around, for lack of better terms, or customize them to how you want them to look. But yeah, for me personally, I guess I was like you, Jesse. I just said, whatever, I just want to play. Like, default character looks good to me, and I just hopped right in. So, but yeah, from what I read, and from what I briefly saw, it's going to be at least as good as Skyrim in terms of the availability that you have to make the character look like you want.
Awesome. Yeah, no, when it actually comes to playing the mage, the way you play is similar to previous incarnations, where if you hold down your mouse button, you fire, like the longer you hold it down, the more you charge up. So if you tap it, you fire one fireball.
Mm-hmm.
If you hold it down just a little bit, you fire two. If you hold it down all the way, you fire three. And if you keep it hold down, you charge up again and fire another three.
Oh, wow.
And
was that
so,
for
like,
all projectiles? Does it turn from single to multiple, or is it just the one that you had?
Well, I only used a staff the entire time. I didn't find a new weapon.
Sure.
So I had the one weapon I had, and it worked pretty well. And so basically, as you level, you get like these points that you can spend on things,
Mm-hmm.
and you can also find little shriny majigs that like they're like little fragments.
Technical term.
If you find 3 fragments, you get another point. So
yeah, that's something I didn't. That's something I didn't know. So for clarification here, outside of physically leveling up, you can acquire, I guess, skill points from collecting things within the world.
Yes,
That's awesome. Wow.
So I don't know if they're in special locations or specific locations, but when you get them, you have 3 equals 1 skill point. It gives you like a running tally when you collect them.
Sure.
And so what happened is they changed this all. This was not in my version. And so skilling up and leveling your all your stuff has been completely changed. Like, it is totally different, and I honestly, the way they present it now, yeah, I told them, I was like, guys, before it was really simple to understand.
Yeah.
Now it's super confusing. I was like, you need some tool tips or something here, because all the tool tips that told you what did what are gone now. And I was like, I don't know if it's just this build of the game, but I am literally confused. and they had 2 of the devs sit down and talk to me, because I was like, all right, I have a problem with this.
Yeah.
Like, before, you could see exactly, like, if I put points into health, stamina, or magicka, it showed me what it did. And now it doesn't say anything. It's just health, stamina, or magicka. I'm like, does it actually do anything? I'm like, well, we changed it so all that stuff is in the armor. So when you skill up your armor, you get those buffs. And so I was like, all right, then why am I putting stuff into health, stamina, magicka? They're like, well, that's how you get the ability to do more stuff. Well, I was like, then what does that do? And they're like, well, I'm like, it was like a back and forth. It was one of those like unanswerable questions. I'm like, why? Just tell us what it gives us. Does putting points into health give us more health? Okay, then say it does that. Right now, it doesn't say anything.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is insane.
Well, and that could just be a build thing. I mean, adding tooltips, that's obviously.
That's what I told. I was like, just add tooltips.
Yeah.
The world would be a better place with their tooltips.
Yeah. That's really interesting, though. I'm really excited to hear about this, those little collectibles. And someone said in chat, I believe they said they're called sky shards. Was the actual name for that?
Yes.
So now, what I'll be really interested to see. I feel I use that phrase so much, but what I'll be really interested to see is if there's a cap to that. Then, if there's like, you can only get. There's 50 levels. So say you can only get a max of 100 points or something. If there's Apparently, you can get as many as there are sky shards and your levels. Yeah,
and
wow.
I think you can get more after you level. I cannot confirm that though. But what I got was that, because when you get to your screen, let's see if I can describe this. Everything you have, you can put points into. So I was a mage character, and I had Daedric summoning. I had like storm powers, whatever the hell it was, and then I had a third tier.
So your three class trees are what those are.
Yes. And then I had all your weapons have skills. All your armor has skills.
Yep.
So from there, you have a bajillion skills, yet you can only put 6 on your bar at any given time.
Yeah.
So already it's like, get ready to decide. And so what happened is, when you start, I was like, okay, so can you reset these at some point? And they're like, no, once you put your points in, you put your points in. Like,
there's no resetting? Wow.
No. So
wow.
I'm like, okay, so what then? I mean, I'm going to have to hold off and win and stuff. I'm like, no, they're like, trust us. It's not going to be an issue. I was like, okay. And it turns out as you play through, I think it got to like level 8. By level 8, I had more points than I had stuff to spend on. So it's not going to be an issue.
But then eventually it's really cool because, as Jesse mentioned, well, just for lack of a better term, we'll call them trees. So you've got three skill trees or 3 skill lines for your character class, whatever one you start out with. And then you've got one for every single weapon type that all have skills attached to them. So whatever weapon you choose to use, you can level up that weapon, and that unlocks different skills. And then there's the armor skill tree, and you level up armor by wearing it and killing things or whatever, gaining experience with it, and then you can do that. And then beyond that, there are going to be guild trees for the Fighters Guild and the Mages Guild and whatever other guild they add.
I totally forgot.
Yeah, there's going to be
the werewolf tree,
PvP
there's a vampire
trees.
tree,
Yeah,
a PvP tree, Oh my god, yeah, and you have to unlock them. There's
So
hidden
there's like
trees that you can unlock.
Yeah,
Oh,
there's
I
like
forgot about
crazy
those too.
there's like crazy amounts of trees and I mean that
Oh no.
I know it confusion. Bewilderment. There's gonna be I think at first when people first get into this game there's gonna be so much for them to take in, and especially without respecing, I think it's gonna. If you're one of those people, and I'm one of those people who's gonna want an ideal build, you're gonna have to do some research because you're gonna need to know every single skill for all the different skill trees, for all the different armor, the weapons, beyond your character class, all the different guilds, the PvP ones. There's 3 like. But that's great because that's so many options, and then that's all confined to your 6 skills that you've got on your bar. But once again, there's 2 different bars available, so you got the option of carrying 2 weapons at a time, and every weapon is going to be slotted to a different skill bar. So I guess technically, a character at any given time will have the 6 skills, or so 12 skills total, and you can just swap them between the weapons on the fly. From what we understand, I don't know if they intend to add a cooldown or anything to that, but. Yeah,
One of the things that I really loved that I thought was terrific is while playing, when I got my first skill point, one of the devs was sitting next to me and she was watching me play through this thing, and I was like, I am literally overwhelmed. I have all these choices. I can either get a little summoning guy, like a little demon that I can summon, a Daedric demon, or I can get a ability to, I think it is a debuff on people, or I can shoot lightning at people. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I have so many choices. She's like, why don't you look at your weapon? I'm like, what? So I go to my staff tree, and on it is this knockback spell.
Yep.
And I put my point into that, and it became the single best thing I had. Because if guys would charge at me, I'd knock them back, and then I'd hold down my mouse and just spam my super attack on them as they ran back at me. And then I just knock them back again. I was like, what up, bitches? It was from level 1 to 4, I was untouchable. And
can I ask you
through those areas.
Can I ask you, the staff, was it basic attack, a ranged attack, or was it a melee attack?
Ranged attack.
It was a ranged attack.
There is no melee attack with the staff.
Okay, that's good. That's good, because I was wondering how they were going to handle those. Obviously, I assumed bows and whatever would be a ranged attack, but I wasn't sure if they were going to have staff be an actual physical melee attack. So was it like a fire? What was it? Was it like a fire? Was it just some magic cast or whatever?
Every staff apparently has a different appearance,
like a different element to it.
This one was fireballs.
Okay,
and it cast 1 fireball and a quick, and then 2 for medium and 3 for holding it down.
Okay,
and if you block, you use the staff to block,
right.
And the guys get stunned, and they're like, ugh, and then I would just unleash super fireballs on them, and it worked really well. Eventually, I ended up with a little demon that followed me around, but you have to keep resummoning him because he doesn't last that long, and an ability that was a lightning spell that I don't know exactly how it works. I probably should have focused on the tooltip more, but lightning flies down from the sky, hits the guy. They remain charged, and then they explode with lightning. But half the time it would instantly kill them, and the other half it wouldn't. And I didn't know if it was because their life was low or not, because sometimes guys would be full life and charging at me, and then they just explode and fall over dead. And other times, they'd be half dead, and I'd hit them with the lightning, and they keep coming at me. I'm like, okay. So I don't know what was going on there, but it was awesome. It was really cool. So yeah.
I think we got an answer. I haven't researched this individually, but my source is someone in Twitch chat said that they did some research, and it looks like, and this would make sense to me if this was the case, it looks like that there's no cap to your skills. So you've got your leveling skills, you've got those shards that you can find that Jesse mentioned, you collect 3 of them and you get another skill. And this makes sense to me because we look at this and there's so many trees and so many different skills. And actually the individual skills, this is something even more customization. Individual skills, as you level up, have multiple functions. So a great example is I had a shield bash, and I was told by the dev that if I kept leveling up shield bash, I'd eventually get to choose something like, do you want it to knock down longer, or do you want it to do more damage? Choose one of the two. So some sort of a split where you get to customize more. But with all of that stuff in mind, all these trees and all these skills and all the various skill levels that further add customization, while you could eventually unlock all of those, you're only going to have 6 at a time, or 12 if you count the 2 bar slots. So I mean that's pretty. So technically, you could have a character eventually. I don't know how long something like this would take, but eventually you could have a character that literally has every single skill in the game unlocked, and then you just whatever you feel, whatever role you feel like playing on that given day, you put those skills into your hotbar, and there you go. That's your character.
I feel like
That's kind of scary, like this ultimate character that could do everything in the game.
I feel like they'll limit it based on what you can, like where you can get the points from. Eventually, you'll run out of locations or ways to get it. Like, sure, you can get infinity points, but there are only so many. Like, I guarantee the sky shards are going to be limited to maybe like 3 a zone or 6 a zone, something like that.
Well, that goes back to, like, because you said you weren't sure. Obviously, you wouldn't know this early, but whether or not they were set spawn locations or if they were random. Because if they are random, then I guess there wouldn't be a cap, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. That seems just too crazy, though. The notion that you could have a character that could do anything if you spent enough time playing and you basically just unlocked all of the skills. That seems, I don't know. Maybe they'll do that.
Did you find any locked chests? Speaking of random, did you find any locked chests?
Yes, I found a locked chest, and
that was very fun.
First I failed. I'm like, what? Because I had my headphones on, and he told me to wait till I hear the pressure go in. I'm like, what? I'm like, oh yeah, okay. I put my headphones on, and then yeah, that was cool. So you want to take people through the unlocking of a chest? There's chests.
So there's lock picking in this game, and you can skill up with it if you find locked chests, or you can simply just press R if you have the ability, or I think it's the items and you can just break the lock, but you don't get any skill points for it, and eventually it just won't help you, but early on it works pretty well. So you get the ability to unlock chests, and the way it works is kind of like Oblivion, where you see a cutaway of the lock, and you are basically each of the rungs of your lock pick, you're pushing down on the springs.
Yes.
And you're pushing it down just enough so it starts to twitch, and then you release your mouse, and then it locks.
Yep.
If you go too long, it'll pop back up, and you have to redo it, but you're timed, so you can fail, and then it's like, you must wait X amount of seconds before doing it again.
Yeah, I think it was something like 30 seconds or something. It's like between 20 and 30 seconds, I think. That could be wrong, but... Yeah. So it's pretty cool. I mean, lock picking's in the game, and I had a situation for me. What was happening is I was going in to pick the lock, and then someone came up and started smacking me in the face. I was like, okay, well, I'll try that again in a minute. Now I'd like to sort of go back here for a minute because I want to talk about my my very early impression of the game. I ended up doing a video right after I got back from PAX just to talk about it while things were still fresh, and it was really cool. We start off. What's going to happen, evidently, is all characters are going to start off basically within being captured by Molag Bal, and you're trying to escape from him. So it's still taking that traditional Elder Scrolls approach of, hey, we're imprisoned and we need to get out of here. And then where you go from there is going to depend on your race and your faction or whatever.
Right.
And so that wasn't there in the build. We started off in the particular area post that, but that's how it's going to be when the game's launched. And so it was so cool for me. We start the character and I'm like, I'm in a ship, like I'm back. I'm back in Morrowind. We're back in Morrowind. It's like the exact same thing. We start off in a ship and we have to go up ahead, and that was really cool. Just sort of a nostalgia thing for me. But the first thing I noticed when I engaged in combat was how difficult it was early on. Like, I don't know if you engaged much before your first level, but before I had any skills available at all, anytime I came up against 2 enemies, I'm like, these guys are pain in the ass.
Every time I hit 2 enemies before I got real abilities, I was dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was just a very early stage. Basically, once you hit level 1 and you get your first ability, it becomes much easier to manage multiple enemies. But man, at first I was getting my butt kicked by any group of the 2 wolves or 2 people. I was like, what the heck is going on? But it was really cool. So we started off on the ship, and then you go and you picked up some quests, and all the quest givers, whether they're NPCs or items that give you a quest, they're highlighted in yellow. And they're also, it appeared to me that any available quests were spotted on the minimap in like those little yellow dots. I don't know. I'm not sure if you noticed that as well, but
yeah, that was true. However, I did get a quest that I found a treasure chest, and I opened up the treasure chest, and it said inside that this is some pirate's special treasure. It was a bottle on a beach, maybe. I don't remember what it was, but it started me on a treasure hunting quest, and it said the first leg of the quest is go stand on the top of the star in the middle of one of the towns, and I was like, okay. So I went to town, and I could not find this thing. I was like, what the hell?
Was it not shown on your minimap?
No, it doesn't show on the map.
Huh.
It doesn't even tell you where to go. It just gives you the riddle. And
Wow.
it says, when you get there, you'll find the next part of this. I'm like, oh, Lord. So eventually I figured out that the star meant the lighthouse in the town. So I went to the top of the lighthouse, and it was like, ding, and it's like, go over here. You have to go past the two, like, the two statues of men, or like the ancient statues, to find the warrior. So I saw those statues before, so I went past them, and it was like, ding, and it's like, find the warrior. I'm like, what the shit? So I'm like going around. I spent like 45 minutes looking for this thing, still didn't find it. I was like, this is a quest that would waste my time.
Yeah. But to have some of those are cool. As you're mentioning that, I didn't do that. Every quest that I did, I found it by looking for a yellow marker on my minimap. I walked up to the yellow silhouetted person or object, picked it up, got my quest, which, by the way, any NPCs you talk to that have dialogue, fully voiced. Did you get any robot voices? I have to ask you.
Yeah, I had a great... I was talking about this the other day on the TGS podcast. I had a great mission where you go into a dungeon, and Steve Bloom is playing a character in there.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many options of how to help him escape and get him out of there that one of the options that I chose, that I guess they didn't have the voices in the game yet. So the entire time it's Steve Bloom with his like deep Steve Bloomy voice. And then all of a sudden it's like, I think we should go this direction. I was like, oh, Lord. It was kind of funny. Yeah.
It was funny. I got warned beforehand. They were like, yeah, we're not done with all the voice acting, so there's going to be some robot voices in there. I was like, all right, that's fine. That's funny. I can dig it. That's cool. So yeah, I was going through and just doing all those normal quests, and we eventually got up to one of the very first areas, and you're within this town that's basically has all these swashbucklers, all these pirates in there, and they've taken people captive that you're trying to rescue. And
Right.
I was like, oh man, I gotta go through all these guys. And then one of the guys said, hey, you should go over there. There's a disguise. And I found a disguise, and then I was just able to walk freely through the town. And I thought that was really, really cool. And it's something we had just talked about here earlier in the podcast. But
Unless someone had a torch. If they had a torch, they could see you.
Right. So there's like these parameters where you can find disguises, whether it be in certain quests or certain areas. They are able to essentially just completely bypass guys unless they have, like Jesse said, unless they have a torch and they can see you more clearly or whatever. Did you notice I thought the aggroing of characters were sort of odd. They did like
Yeah.
when you basically, if you walked within aggro range, they like yelled or something like roar, and then they turned around and started charging you. I thought that was kind of weird as opposed to an instant, like they see you, they come right at you. There was this like.
Well, sometimes they go, and sometimes they don't do anything.
Yeah.
Because I guess they think they see you. I don't know how it works, but there's sometimes where, one time these two wolves from like across a field came to attack me. I was like, that has got to be a bug, because I was nowhere near them. I was just walking by and they just ran after me. I was like, okay, I'm dead now.
Jesse just minding his own business, attacked by wolves in the middle of a field. Yeah, one thing I will say about the combat, and I definitely got to say overall, I really, really had a great time, and I'm really, really excited to get into the beta, ZeniMax, and try the game out some more. But I felt I don't know if this was just an early build issue, or I don't know if it was a show floor internet latency issue, but I felt like the combat was a little floaty. It didn't feel really impactful, and that's something that I've made on.
It's missing weight. I think
Yeah.
you're missing a weight to your combat. The swings on big weapons don't have that like weight to the swing. You're very. I was. When I was playing as my mage, there was times when I was like fluttering around the combat, like just casting spells, and it didn't seem like there was any. I was just like a butterfly floating around. Okay, whatever.
And if people want, I know some people will hate claims without like a sort of a solution to it. The way you create weight in a video game is to have feedback to your actions. And so in something like this, particularly what we'd be looking for is if I hit an enemy with my giant two-handed sword, they need to react. If they're just standing there like, after they get hit and they don't flinch whatsoever, that takes away a lot of the weight behind the combat. And it might not seem like a big deal, but you know, when you play multiple games in a genre, or you've played, like, to have action combat. I've played action combat in other games. I think this is something like Terra or Aeon does very, very well. There's a weight to the combat, and when you hit someone with something, you get that feedback, and it seems like it's impactful.
It might be because they have that knockback system that they aren't doing that, which I think is a problem, because it seems like a silly thing not to do. But because if some guy attacks you and you block it, he'll be like, ugh, and he'll stumble backwards, and then you can unleash a special attack on him. I feel like that's where that is, yet I think it should be everywhere. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I agree. And actually, that was a system that I did really like for tactic reasons, but I guess if it's taking away from the impactfulness of normal swings, then that could be kind of annoying. But I don't think that's something that they can't fix or they can't address if they feel like it's worthwhile. I mean, this is just one player's opinion here. But I want to talk about that system. So that was really cool. So what Jesse's talking about is what will happen. Normal attacks you can just block, whatever. Someone will attack you, you'll block it, you'll mitigate some of the damage based on what you're blocking with, how much stamina you have, all of that. There are these heavy attacks, these wind-up attacks, that for me, they were always telegraphed. So there would be opponents with a big sword or whatever, and they would wind the sword back, and there was like these little yellow sparkles or something coming out of them when they were doing it. And if I were to put on my shield while that heavy attack was coming down, they would get knocked on their butt for, it was like 2 seconds or something, and you'd have some time to get a few shots in there. I thought that was really cool for like a tactic, from a tactical perspective. It's one of those things that I'm also wondering if that's going to be incorporated in PvP, mainly if basically someone does a left mouse button, hold it down, heavy attack, if that is going to, if the block's going to knock them down in that situation as well.
I don't know. That's interesting.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, so overall, I guess we can just wrap up with some closing thoughts here. I'd like to know, Jesse, after playing it at PAX East, just with your complete honest impressions, I think we've covered a lot of things. How do you feel about how the game's developing? I know you said it's changed a lot from when you played it in the fall. How do you feel it's progressing as we get into the beta and get closer to launch here?
I think they're doing a lot of things right. I'm hoping that they continue down a path to make it, better and more like a mix between an Elder Scrolls game and an MMO. I'm hoping they stick on that. I had a blast playing it. I thought it was really fun. The 2 hours flew by.
Yeah.
I just, there's the small, little tiny things that I'm nitpicking about, but it's things that I think need to be nitpicked because little things like that can kill immersion in a game.
Yeah, definitely stuff like that adds up. One thing that really irked me too, and this is very trivial, but when you picked up items in the world, they like dissolved out of existence. I thought that was weird. But that might just be because I'm used to Elder Scrolls games where you grab an item, it just disappears just like that, like it pops in your inventory. But these ones sort of like they dissolved into pixels and just vanished, which I don't know. That's a huge nitpick. But the huge positives, though, I thought overall it really felt like in Elder Scrolls games, I thought the visuals were fantastic.
The spell visuals are amazing.
Yeah, it looks...
As a mage, I uppercutted a guy, and he's stuck on the roof. That's how it was amazing. I was like, yes!
Yeah, and besides the impactfulness, I think the combat feels pretty good. I'm not entirely sold on the little, when you tab target, there's these little like triangles that get brought up in 4 corners. I'm not entirely sold on the way that looks. I understand why they're doing it though, because they need to have a box so that you know where to put your cursor if you want to hit that. Because of the soft targeting system, if you put your cursor on someone else outside of the box of the person you're trying to soft target, you're going to hit that person instead. So they need to have some sort of box. I just thought it looked kind of weird. Maybe it's just because I'm used to, basically a circle around people's feet when it comes to who you're targeting within a game. There's also a red glow around your targeted enemies as well. I heard some people say that they thought that was kind of annoying, but I don't know. Overall, like I said, and that's something that actually I remember people complaining about during the development of Diablo 3, because they do that in that game too. When you're selecting someone to target, there's a red glow around them. I don't know. Maybe that's something you can disable if people are really annoyed by that, but it didn't bother me too much.
No, sir, not me either.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, overall, I'm really excited. There's definitely a few complaints. I hope maybe they can try to figure out to add more weight to the combat, make it feel more impactful. But overall, it felt like a game, and I came away from it really excited to see more, and really looking forward to watching it continue to develop. So I can't wait. I really can't wait. I can't wait to get into the beta. Damn it, ZeniMax. Invite me. Okay. All right, so we're going to wrap things up here. I just want to quickly go out. We do have a couple of questions. I know we're short on time here, Jesse, but it's hilarious that this is the 1 week we actually get tons of questions on the Facebook page. But we'll answer a couple of these, and maybe we'll pull some of them over into next week as well. So someone asked about guilds. They were wondering what the guilds are going to be within the game. Basically, what we know so far is that there's going to be the Fighters Guild and the Mages Guild. And from what I understand, they have plans to add the other ones, just not immediately. I don't know.
I don't know exactly what. I think it's a little too early to say exactly what there's going to be. But you're right. They're going to have the standard guilds there, and we'll see what other ones they add.
Yeah. So yeah, there are going to be guilds. It might be something where they just decide to do more guilds and expansions and stuff like that. All right, I got a question here from a casual gamer. He says, hey, let's say I'm a casual gamer just a few hours per week due to lack of time. I was wondering if ESO... That's you? Is that what you said?
No, I said, let's say.
Let's say, yeah. And I'm wondering if ESO, which looks awesome, is a game for me. Do you have an idea already? Well, I think that's a great question, because I think like an example like that is perfect. And they're trying to design this game so that you can play it alone, and then you can enjoy the single-player experience. So I think for that reason, I think the Elder Scrolls Online would be perfect for people who just have a few hours a week, you know?
Right.
It seems like so much of the content is designed either around the solo experience or just going it alone in small groups. I think that's going to work. I think that's going to work quite fine. And just looking for one more. Any news on... Okay, here's a good question. A lot of people were wondering. Any news on whether or not the beta weekends will have an NDA? Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure we're going to have to deal with NDAs for quite some time. I don't think.
Yeah, not until it's really perfected will you see videos of it.
Right. Yeah. So that's going to be the case. I'm sorry that we're that's going to have to do it though for questions. Jesse's got to hit a plane. He's going somewhere.
Yeah. What do you know?
Somewhere important. So
traveling.
We'll be wrapping up this one. We'll be sure to make up for it. We're going to answer some of these questions because we do have quite a bit in the next episode. And yeah, thanks guys so much for watching. Really exciting episode. Once again, so excited to have recently taken a look at the game. Can't wait for the upcoming beta. I think it's looking good. It's shaping up quite well. Hopefully they address some of our complaints and some community complaints. But it's good.
I'm excited. Good. I can't wait. Thank you guys. Thank you guys for listening. This is a blast.
Yep. Thanks so much for watching. Tune in probably next week. I think we'll plan to do it unless scheduling issues conflict. But we'll be back with the Elder Scrolls Online podcast and keeping you guys up to date. Thanks again for Jesse. This has been Dennis. We'll see you next time. Take it easy, guys.
Bye.